everyone, it's your man James with Some More Treasures, back again with some more video action for you. Today is another one of the great videos I do here called Why It's Great, which for those of you who don't know what that's about, I take an issue from the past, something I've read that I really enjoy. I'll tell you why I think it's awesome and why you yourself should check it out. But before we get into any of that, I want to thank you all for joining me today. And be sure to hit the subscribe button so you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of this great content I've been putting up recently, as well as if you got any comments to make on the book I talk about here, drop them down there in the comments. I want to hear what you have to say, as always. And make sure you give a like if you like this stuff, because that'll help the algorithms, help me get some more traction around here. So I really would appreciate that as well. So again, thank you all for joining me today. And the book today I'll be talking about is ROM number 51. Now, for those of you who don't know, ROM is a comic series from Marvel that was done back in started in '79. This issue will be from 1983, and it's not like the typical stuff you get with superheroes. It's got a lot more sci-fi and even a little bit of horror touch to it. And on top of all that is this isn't even based as a comic book property like the Hulk or Spider-Man or anything like that. ROM was actually a toy that was invented in the very late '70s, a little robotic toy, and they basically based an entire universe and story around him from that. And it's done by one of my favorite all-time writers of all time, the great Bill Mantlo. And so I've been wanting to do a ROM type of talk on my Why It's Great piece here, and so I thought now would be a good time. And 51 is a great issue for several reasons, which I'm about to get into here. So why don't we can my chatter, and what we'll do is we'll take me off of here because we don't need to see me, and then we'll bring up the issue. And here we are, ROM number 51 from 1983. And we'll just start off here with just take a look at this awesome cover by the great Mike Zeck. I mean, is it any wonder why he was one of the premier artists, and especially cover artists, for Marvel in the 1980s? I don't think it is. You see this great image here of Starshine just dropping down and just going to town, blasting people. I mean, like I said, it really has. You can see the sci-fi obvious with her cyborg armor there, but with the people running and the guy getting killed, and it all feels very horror-esque, almost like it's a sci-fi horror film with this cover. And you'll see why that is, because the whole story of ROM, like I said, it's got multiple layers to it. It does fall into a superhero category, you could say, but it's also got lots of sci-fi elements. It's got some horror elements. It's got some human drama elements. It's got lots of layers, and that's part of what makes the series so good. And this cover is just indicative of the great kind of art that the series had all throughout its run. So let's get on into it. And you can see right here's our opening splash page. Gloves off. See Bill Mantlo, Sal Buscema, and Mel Candidio are our artists here. And Sal Buscema, he's known for his great stuff with Spider-Man and the Hulk and lots of other stuff. I mean, is there a Marvel character that hasn't felt the touch of his pencils? I doubt it. But to me, his ROM work is special. He did the first 58 issues of the series, minus a couple. I think that there were fill-ins, and then then it was taken over for the last year and a half by the great Steve Ditko. But to me, this Buscema ROM is the ultimate ROM. That's the definitive ROM to me. And so I just love this art. I mean, you can see here, just a great splash page, and just the dialogue. She is Starshine. She is a space knight. She is bent on slaughter. So right there, they're just setting you up right from the get-go that this is going to be something epic, something very intense. And as you can see here, she comes flying along to a bridge and goes in there and demands the guy raise the bridge to stop the cars from leaving. And when he gets a little testy about it, she busts out some power to say, I'm not playing games. And so in fear, he does what she asks. She prevents him from stopping it, and then she heads out to do her job. With that enigmatic remark, the Golden Gladiatrix takes to the skies, her flight carrying her over the already startled commuters, whose shock turns at the sight of her to outright panic. Panic, an understandably human reaction. But not all those who flee Starshine searching light eyes are human. And this is where we see The reason she was doing what she was doing is because she's trying to find the dire wraiths, who are the sworn enemy of the Space Knights. And they have the ability to mask themselves and to make themselves look like an indigenous population. And so, when you see all these people running, you think it's all just humans, but yet there are wraiths hiding among them, and that's what she's here to do. And you can see, you stand convicted of crimes against humanity, space scum, and the sentence is death. There is a subtle shift in the spectrum of the light emitted from Starshine's light eyes. That shift is enough to slay the hissing wraiths where they stand. You see, it just totally, just like I said, this is where you get something of the horror aspect. Because when you destroy a wraith this way, all they leave is a pile of ash. It's not like they turn back into the wraith and then humans could see them. So as far as these humans are concerned, you see them all running around in fear and everything else. Is all they see is she blasted to what looked to them to be human beings and turned them to ash. They don't have any idea that they've been infiltrated by these creatures. So that's when our main hero here, Ram, shows up on the scene. He saves a child who could have got trampled, and then he kind of chastises Starshine for how she went about taking care of the wraiths. But she's what happened is in the previous issue, the wraiths had destroyed her hometown because Starshine isn't the classic type of Space Knight like Ram is. She's a human who was merged with Space Knight technology, and so she's a human Space Knight. And her hometown of Claritin was destroyed by the wraiths, and so now she's out there seeking vengeance. It's not just a case of I'm trying to stop them from harming the Earth. It's I have a direct reason I want these creatures dead. And she even says Claritin's murderers have paid the price for their crimes. That's justification enough for any acts of mine. We are engaged in a war, Ram, with no quarter asked and none given. Isn't that what you taught me? And then he comes in, as regards Wraithkind, perhaps. But your methods, my sweet Starshine, instill terror in the very race we have sworn to ourselves to protect. We are soldiers. As such, we bear responsibility of safeguarding civilians, not terrorizing them. So you see here, even though Ram knows he's a soldier in a war, he still feels like there are rules in this war. You can't just do anything. And this shows you kind of like the nobility of the character. He's not like just some guy who's out, like you see her, she's out for vengeance now because of what was done to the town and the people that she knew by the race in the previous issue. And here Ram is trying to rein her back in and go, we have a code as Space Knights. We don't create terror in the people we're trying to save, even though this is a war, even though there is no quarter given and none asked. That's not how you treat these innocent civilians. And then she comes in, let them know terror, Ram. Perhaps this will awaken them to the threat the dire race pose to Earth. Perhaps it will place them on guard. See, she's so hardened now. She's like just cut off all ties to her humanity, and it's all enough. She's just in it for the vengeance, And so it's a really good contrast between the two. Between the person you would think it would be the other way around, because Ram has fought this war for a long time, and Starshine is new to it, and yet their reactions are very much the opposite. He's still the man of honor trying to fight the war in a right way, whereas she is like totally now just filled with anger and rage and vengeance, at what she has seen. So they take off, and they start talking, and she goes, he calls her by her human name, and she says, though her humanity may have merged with this cold, insate Space Knight steel, her soul died alongside her family at the hands of the demonic dire wraiths. Everyone I ever loved, dead, destroyed, and I can't even cry. So you see the pain that this has caused. This is a war that has taken so much from so many. And I really love how Mantelo plays this aspect to it. He shows you that war is dirty business, but that there was always an emotional cost. So they head off to go to the funeral of the town. And then we get to the town, and you can see, it's a small town called Claritin, West Virginia. and you can see the people marching through with coffins for the dead. You got the local news, coming in, being the way that they are even today. But this right here is what I like, where he comes in and talks about what's going on. He goes, how the coffins are empty. He goes, oh, people may have died in Clariton over the past week. The town has been swept by a series of mysterious, localized fires. Whole families appear to be missing. State officials sift through the charred rubble and have found no remains, only heightening the mystery. So what's the answer? Could it have been such a massive loss of life in such a tiny town, so unused to disaster, could have unbalanced these people, driving them into a collective acting out of their grief? And then you got the guy who's overhearing him, and he goes, typical newsy, know nothing, say a lot. It's very much to today as well. The news media, they go for the sensationalism, they go for what will grab the headlines. The old adage, if it bleeds, it leads. That's what they do. And here it is, this guy just calling that straight out, saying, you don't know anything of what you're talking about. You think you know, and you don't. You're completely oblivious, and yet here you are talking this nonsense to people who might think you know what you're talking about. And so he tells them, if you want the answers, come to the cemetery. And we get there, and the news media. This is where they first see Rom and Starshine. Now, see, what you have to understand about this in the series up to this point is Rom was only known to the people of Clariton and a few others around. The vast majority of the planet doesn't even know he's here, and they don't know about the Wraith War. They don't know about any of this. It's all like completely hidden from humanity. And so this is like really for the first time the world getting to see Rom. And at first they don't believe it. What is the Halloween prank? And he goes, hey, stop talking and start listening. And so Rom says, it's time to end Earth's ignorance on the war and what's really happening, and you need to tell them what's going on. And so Starshine goes to regale the tale of Galador, where this all began. And they go into the whole history of everything here. You can see, how it was a beautiful planet, a shining pearl in the galaxy, until the dire wraiths came in and started to cause destruction. And so that's when the Galadorians decided we need to fight back, and that's when they decided to create. The flower of Galador's youth was summoned to sacrifice their humanity to become cold cyborg combat machines. Understand what that meant to us. Our humanity was precious to us. We treasured nothing more than life and love. So Rom's laying down all the sacrifices he has made and his people have made to fight the race. And they tell you how they went in and became the cyborgs that they are now, and then they soared forth just to protect their world. And I love this shot right here. Just a great image of all the all the space, like just all together, all as one. And then you got some great battle sequence here again. And I love how Marvel always used to do this, where like when you're telling a story within the story, they do the rounded corners on the panels, so that it's just like something that's from the past that's being retold. I liked how they always did that. It's a little visual cue I always noticed, and I always appreciated that. You can see, they fought them, and they defeated them. They claimed victory. He goes, the horror did not end there, though. My fellow space knights and I wish it had. The race were routed, but they carried their evil with them, like an interplanetary cancer, from world to innocent world, able to assume any shape. So he tells them how, how this is how it's all gone down. They became indistinguishable from the indigenous populations of those planets. So he's laying it out how it's come to where the threat has now come to Earth. And so the prime director of Galador, which is basically, I guess you could say, the president of the planet, he said that he wanted the Space Knights to continue, and Rom at first didn't want to. Like, wait, we beat them. Shouldn't you want us to continue to fight? He goes, I want you to. I can only guess at the consequences, and the choice has to be yours. But I see that if you don't go to where the race have gone into hiding, they will return to attack Galador again. Something that was only brought home to Rom after his love, Reyna, was killed by Race shortly before he made his decision. He goes, thus Rom committed himself to wage a war unending against Wraithkind. and undertook to lead the Space Knights in that holy quest to every corner of the cosmos. So you see, it's like it became now. It's now just not just something he has, he did for his world. It's now personal for Rom. And again, I just love that image, Rom coming at you with with the sight of him fighting all the race and stuff over the cosmos. I just love that. Again, just a great image. Very 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 perfectly fit for this. And again, it really shows you how the character of Rom has grown, because you saw at first he did it for his world, and then he wanted to say, well, we've beaten them back, let's stop now. And he didn't want to continue on until it became personal, until he suffered the loss personally. Again, it just shows you, like, the very many layers to the character that Mandalore has crafted. Again, and I think this is all based off of a toy. They built this whole entire universe around a toy. And then Rom tells of how he came to Earth, and tried at first, and tried to help clear out the people, the race in the Claritin, and then Starshine steps in and says, how yes, Claritin was cleansed, but the race soon returned and exacted revenge most terrible, by destroying the city and killing most of the people in it. And she says, how, like, that's how the way the race operated is they take you body and soul, and this is they show you here how race operate. They take you over and just take everything from you and become you. And so Claritin died, and just I love this shot right here. Her anguish, Rom's sorrow. Again, just this is how great Sal Buscema is, that he can take something. These are cyborgs, so like they don't have like the humans you can see back here with their facial expressions of shock, but here with these cyborgs, these unflinching faces they have. Rom can't even really show any emotion whatsoever, and yet you still get the emotion of the characters as they're telling this tale. That's a sign of a great artist who can take something that, like, you'd say was almost like an inanimate object and give it life, give it the ability to emote. That's a really great thing, and it's one of the things I've always loved about the Rom series in general. So then Brandy Clark, Starshine, tells of how she came to know Rom. She was the first person to see him, and that how he had helped to save the town at first, when he cleansed it. But then she learned that humans themselves couldn't fight this foe, because even the Space Knights can die. So she knew that there had to be more done. They couldn't just be left up to Rom. And so when she had the the armor of Starshine, exhumed, and then through the machinations of a race warlock called Dr. Dread, he merged them in the efforts to make her into a weapon to use against Rom. But she says her love for Rom enabled her to throw off Dread's enchantments. And so then they came back to Claritin together, little realizing that a trap was set and that the race had already beaten them back there. And then the race sprung their trap, putting them in an unearthly plane, as she says. But fortunately, the Skrulls were also on Earth at the time, and they fought against the race, and that allowed them to free themselves, but not in time to save the town. So like this is just like this the last couple of pages recap the previous couple of issues where all this stuff went down. So you can see how like this has all really come home to them. And then, the tale is told. We have recounted it at length, that you, who stand most to suffer as Claritin suffered, will understand that Earth is at war. Do you understand? Will you believe? And again, I just love that panel there with all the faces, all the different expressions. Some of disbelief, some of shock, some of concern, some of just, indignance. I just love how, humanity is so perfectly comprised just by these little headshots. The way people feel, like we all won't feel the same way hearing the story, and I like that. And this is where Rom really lays it out. He goes, Heretofore I have attempted to seek out Wraithkind in secrecy, fearful of alarming humanity at large. That tactic has failed. Too many innocents have suffered, too many whom knowledge might have saved have died. The tide is turned, the moment to be merciful has passed. Whereas before I have banished Wraithkind off Earth to a shadow realm called Limbo, hereafter any I encounter working their evil upon this earth, I do swear that I shall slay. This is my war to wage, as I will it, but it is also your world. So he's basically calling up for humanity to join him to end the threats of the race for good on Earth. And again, I just love that shot here. The arms raised in power, like join us. We are one. Come together, fight with us. And then, of course, it says, Rom's declaration of war is telecast all over America and soon to every corner of the earth as well. But there are others receiving his challenge by other sorcerous means who also seek to frame a response. And then our final shot here, the Wraiths are watching and they have heard him. And they basically tell him, it doesn't matter what you do, Rom, we accept the challenge. You bring all others against us, but we'll still have it. And he goes, or we shall render it incapable of supporting any life at all. And then, next issue, total war. And this begins the final cataclysmic battle with the Wraiths. For the next year in the book, it's like the war, it's the fever pitch. And this was the issue that sort of set the tone. And, again, I just loved, I love the design of the Wraiths too. Just, they're so otherworldly. The evil just almost emanates from them. You wouldn't even need the dialogue. Just if you just saw this image of these creatures, you just know that they're evil. You can't look at them and go, oh, well, maybe they could be misunderstood. Maybe they're not. No, these are pure evil. And I like that they did that. Again, create a foe that you could really stand against. Not one where it's not like how today where too many people try to say, well, bad guys aren't really bad and good guys aren't really good. No, it's clear cut. These creatures are evil. Rom and his space knights, they are the good guys. That's how it is. Now, they're not saying they're perfect. As you saw, Rom, at first didn't want to go back into the fight after he had saved Galador. But then when he paid a personal price for it, he understood. So that's the kind of subtleties and nuances that they don't do in characters anymore. When you got these characters today, they don't put in that type of stuff in the character anymore. They don't have those kind of flaws where they've learned through trial and error, where they've made mistakes and paid prices for them. It's like the girl boss, for example. She's perfect in every way. She knows exactly what to do. No one can tell her anything to do. And anyone who tries to, show her up, they always end up getting showed up themselves in the end because, she's the girl boss and that's just how it is. That kind of nonsense is why these characters that are, the more modern stuff isn't so relatable. Yet characters like Rom, you can relate to this. He's a man of honor who suffered a great deal. And yet, he knows what he must do. And yet part of him is still sorrowful that he has to do it. These are the layers that you build upon a character. And again, like I said, this is all based from a toy. It's not like this was something they created, some whole new character that was created for the comic. This was based on a toy, and they built an entire world around it, an entire story around it. And to me, that's just that takes something special. Bill Mantlo, the writer, it was said of him that he knew how to get any character's voice just right. And I agree with that description of his style. Because like when you read his Spider-Man work or his Hulk work, when you read them, they sound like the characters, like the way they're supposed to sound. Or how you always imagine the Hulk being or Spider-Man, that's how his sounded. But Rom to me is different. Because Rom didn't have any of that. He didn't have an established character. He didn't have an established story arc or an established universe or anything like that. He was created out of basically whole cloth, just from an image of a toy, and everything else was built around it. And yet, all of it makes sense. And so when you see the toy, now this is the voice of Rom. When you read, reading these books, Bill Mantlo gave Rom a voice. where he had none before. He didn't just get his voice correct, he created his voice. And that to me is something very special. That's why I hold this book in such high regard. And, it's also a comic that's, again, like I said, it does play into the superhero aspects. It's got different styles, like I said, the horror, the sci-fi, the human interaction, and even like a little romantic drama type stuff in there mixed in. But it's superheroes done in the way, well, this story specifically was done in a way that's more like a manga. Because, with manga, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. The story will end at some point. Like there may be like 20 volumes or 50 volumes or whatever it is, but at some point it ends. That story will have a conclusion. That's how all manga is written. Rom was the same way. The book went for 75 issues and 4 annuals. And when the final issue came out, the story was over. It even said on the cover, the final, the final fate of the Space Knight saga, and so you knew it was the end. And so, like, to have a story in mind and to see it all the way through, and Mantelo wrote every single issue of the book. That is something very special to me. You don't really see that today. You don't see great minds who can, give an inanimate object a voice like this, and then to have a definitive story set in mind. To me, like I said, Rom is just a very special book. It's probably my favorite Mantelo book of all the stuff he's done. He's created Cloak and Dagger, which is great. Like I said, the Hulk, Spider-Man. He's done lots of great stuff over the years. But Rom to me stands out. Rom is special, and so I just wanted to do an issue of this to spotlight this series because it is just such a great book and very inexpensive. Most of the Rom issues you'll find are not very expensive. There are a few exceptions here and there. Maybe somebody, guest starred, or like the first issue, of course, is probably expensive. But most of these, like this issue here, 51, you could probably get a very nice copy of this for like $5. I mean, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. I mean, $5, that's what they cost for a new book today, and they're not nearly as entertaining as this is. Now, is chock full of great stories and characters like this is. I mean, you saw in this, you got the history of Rom and his planet. You got the history of Brandy Clark, who became Starshine. You got her story. You got all the stories of these characters, and they laid the groundwork for everything in one single issue. Everything that had come before and everything that was about to happen, it all comes to a head right here in this issue. And it's just beautifully done. And again, like I said, just so many little things. Like I said, like this, giving emotions to something which would be unable to show emotions. As Starshine said herself, she feels so bad, and yet she can't even cry. And yet in this image, you feel the pain. That, my friends, is great storytelling, visually and artistically. This is something you don't see so much anymore in comics today. Like, they've forgotten how to do this. And so like I said, for me, Rom will always be special. And so, like I said, if you can, definitely go out, pick up Rom. I mean, I know there's I think they've done omnibuses of the book and stuff, but if you do, just pick up issue 51 and read it for yourself. And believe me, you'll come away, I'm hoping, with the same kind of feelings I do. Like, this is really great science fiction. This is really great storytelling. This is a really great heroic epic. It's multiple levels, layers of an onion. There's so much packed into a single issue, and it really, like I said, just spotlights everything that was great about the series. So, and there you have it, Rom 51 from 1983. It's hard to believe a comic from four decades ago could be, so great and just stand out to me like that. But yet it does. Like I said, Rom is a very special book, and I hope you guys got to see some of that in what I've shown you here today. And so, let me know what you think below. But drop some comments down there. Have you read Rom? What did you think of the series? What do you think of the saga of the Space Knight? Was it really great? Do you think it was not so great? What did you think? Did you see anything in here that I missed when I was going through, or did I make a special point that you never considered? Let me know. I want to hear what you guys got to say. And that'll about do it for this one. So we'll call it good. And I will see you guys again next time. I got some stuff coming up, maybe another What's in the Box coming up soon. Also, I'm working on another sequential thinking piece that will be happening hopefully sooner than later, hopefully before the end of the month. And after that, well, also I have a little thing I did with my good friend Pop. We actually got together for a moment and did a little something. And so I'll have that for you soon as well. So you guys be sure to check that stuff out. Look forward to it and subscribe so you don't miss any of the great content here. I thank you again all for joining me today. And until next time, take care.